Hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome back to Empathy for Ramadan Season 2. It's taken me 4 long years to get this back up and running. I ran this first in 2020 in what was probably one of our most difficult Ramadans as the world was closed in, right? So we couldn't pray, we couldn't live, we couldn't do anything as we normally did. So it gives me great pleasure to have you all here and to bring Empathy for Ramadan back. Just a very brief intro before I introduce my guest Imran today. But the role of this show is to help non-Muslims from around the world, and often Westerners, to really understand what Ramadan is. I am so lucky that I have spent probably nearly 10 years now in the Middle East and Asia, living alongside people celebrating Ramadan. And it strikes me that so many people don't understand it, and they don't know who to ask, and they don't know how to get their questions answered. So we have 5 episodes coming away in the next week. And the first guest is Imraan Choonara, who is here today to talk a little bit about the 101 of Ramadan. What is it? What does it mean? What's the role of community? So Imraan, thank you for coming and giving us your time.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Mimi, and thank you for having me on Empathy for Ramadan. And just hearing that intro, I mean, I'm pretty impressed that you launched this platform, of course, a number of years ago. Of course, COVID, the whole world, we can't believe we actually went through that, which is actually quite incredible, actually. But you're right. And, I'm glad you're doing this because this is actually needed around the world, especially at a time like right now, of course, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, it's really poignant, Imran. One of the reasons I sort of got driven to bring this back this year was I read the most horrendous statistic, which shows that Islamophobia is up 24% all around the world. And when we consider that we have 1.9 billion Muslims in the world, that's a huge amount of phobia against a huge amount of people that are sharing our planet. So I was really driven to make sure that we try and overcome some of those barriers and misunderstandings and gaps between us, and really close those gaps. So Imran, why don't you just give us a short intro for the audience? Who are you? What do you do? Tell us why you said yes to coming on, and how you fit into this equation.
Well, interestingly, thanks for that question, because I think, first of all, for people who don't know me, wouldn't know that I'm the CEO of an international organization, it's a humanitarian organization that started back in 1987, actually. So now, 37 years old right now, which I'm grateful. My dad was one of the founders back then, together with another gentleman from Kuwait at that time, and started, in South Africa, operating in Africa, in many, many countries in Africa, of course. And their primary function was just, it wasn't very complicated. It was Africa, and because it was started by a few Muslim guys, and it was an agency, so Africa Muslims Agency. It wasn't very complex in how they came up with the name. And 37 years later, of course, we've done, and I've been now the CEO for the last, since 2011. And interestingly enough, the footprint in many countries in Africa has been primarily around water, around poverty alleviation. Water in Africa is a massive, massive, massive issue. Especially because it doesn't only affect what we think water affects. It affects girl education. It affects so many other factors in Africa. So that's something that Africa Muslims does, is we develop thousands of water wells and boreholes per annum. We build homes, we build schools. We have a school in Lebanon for refugee camps, for a very, very high quality school for Palestinian refugees, Syrian refugees, and Lebanese children, the integration. We have an education facility in Afghanistan. We have a school in the south of Johannesburg in South Africa for underprivileged kids there as well, with high quality education. So there's many factors to what we do. We have sanitary packs that we do. Actually, it's quite a big campaign that we do in many, many countries. But this Ramadan, for example, we're doing feeding in over 22 different countries to millions and millions of people. That's one aspect of what I do, as you asked. Another aspect of what I do is I'm a transformational speaker. I'm a speaker globally on business and leadership development. I'm a certified speaker in the leadership space. That's been a passion of mine for over 20 years now, is leadership development, entrepreneur development. That's been a passion of mine. But way back in the day, I graduated as a dental technician, interestingly enough. And it's the weirdest time of my life, but I graduated top of my class. Interestingly, I could have just gone on that road, I suppose. But God always has a plan, and I didn't know I would love speaking and love people and developing people, empowering people. So the humanitarian side, it's a passion of myself. leading great teams of people around the world. Obviously, it's never a one-man show. Nothing ever in this world great is accomplished by one person. It is always teams. And so there's many, many teams around that. And of course, it's the humanitarian space, but also the people development. I love it.
Oh, you and I have so much in common. And another show, another time, we need to tell this audience about how we met, because that itself was a coming together of energy and souls.
Absolutely.
But let's talk a little bit about Ramadan. We entitled this first episode, The Honest 101 Intro Show. We could probably talk for hours. But I would love to just start, for anyone listening who doesn't really understand what Ramadan is, in your own words, as a leader, but also just as a man, as a human, as a person, as a Muslim, what is this month that's begun just over a week ago, and what does it mean?
Well, first of all, I think most people around the world know that the Muslim community does something regarding no eating and no drinking at some time of the year. And we always, every single year, get this question, not even water? Like, I mean, it's like a normal thing that everyone asks, and we got to remind people, no, not even water. But anyway, we follow the lunar calendar as a few faiths do, obviously. But in the Muslim faith, we follow the lunar calendar. And of course, one of the months is called Ramadan, which is our fasting month. And our fasting is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, our faith. It's one of the 5 pillars. So it is compulsory for any adult, male and female, to fast during this month. It's from the sighting of the moon to the sighting of the next moon for the next month, of course. And that is 29 to 30 days, depending when the moon is sighted. And we fast from sunrise to sunset, in a nutshell. So that's the physical aspect. Fasting, of course, abstaining from food, from drink, from intimacy with our legal partners, or halal as we call it in the Muslim faith. So your wife, for example, or husband, so abstinence from intimacy during the daytime. But of course, in the eve, after sunset, you can eat, you can drink, you can have intimate relations with your spouse. So these are all things that are just, the abstinence is during the day. Now, of course, the flip side of that is that I suppose sometimes, and I call it the Western world, maybe let's say the non-Muslim world, sometimes assumes that maybe after sunset, it's like, well, let's just party. Let's just go crazy. It's almost like this, you starved yourself for the day and let's just go crazy after sunset. Well, that's not really the point of Ramadan. That's not really, yes, we do get connected with family more. We do get together. We do share. We do, there's so many things we do. But it's not, just to clear a bit of a myth and a misconception, it's not this thing about, well, debauchery after sunset because there's abstinence during the day. No, it's not that. There's more to it than that. It's a very spiritual time. It's a closeness to our Creator. It's a closeness. It's an awareness. We in the Muslim faith are taught and believe very strongly that Satan, or shaitan as we call it in Arabic, Satan is restrained during the month of Ramadan. And that's why sometimes we can't imagine even how young kids can fast and do it, because it's just this idea of that you are closer to your Creator and you are not easily influenced by Satan or these forces outside of that. And you are more spiritual in this time. We pray more. We go to mosque more. We read the Quran more, because it's the month in which the Quran was revealed. So we believe that it was revealed in this month, and it was finalized in this month. There's even a night in this month that is called the Night of Power. So there's so many aspects to it. I mean, we can't cover everything today, but I just want to throw a few thoughts out there. It's a highly spiritual time, highly family, community-based time. It's not a wasteful time, because sometimes it implies that, because kind of we often on social media nowadays will share what we're eating for iftar, and usually there's spreads, of course, and of course that's wonderful. If God's blessed you and your family to be able to provide for your family, you should, without waste, of course. And then there's the whole charity side of Ramadan, which people do, and we can cover some of those thoughts. But that's in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, and as you said, I mean, there is so much to learn. And I think I mentioned in the intro, I've had nearly a decade of being able to spend Ramadan, even though I'm not Muslim myself, with many Muslim friends and families and colleagues. And I'm still learning a decade later. And I have some young team members in my life who are Muslim, and they're still learning. They tell me how much they learn in this period, like you said, reading and praying and spending time investing in themselves and their connection to others. And I want to pick up on that part, because you mentioned charity and community. And in this 5-part series of Empathy for Ramadan, given your work and your NGO, you seem like the perfect person to tell us about that. So tell us a little bit about zakat. What does that mean? And what's the role of charity or giving or caring in this month?
Okay, now I want to just maybe, and I really hope we can unpack this, because there's just and I don't know, maybe God created me in a weird way. Like my brain just works in a weird way. So you see, zakah, as we call it, that Arabic terminology, zakah is our giving of charity. Now, charity, typically, when we grow up, we think charity is like this kind of people are in need and shame these poor people, and so we've not done them a favor, but we're kind of helping them with charity. We're giving, because we have, so we're grateful that we have, so we're giving to others, and this kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying that's not true, but in Islam, it's different. It's not just that. Zakah is not just what we consider normal charity. Zakah is one of our 5 pillars of Islam, so it's compulsory, actually, as a Muslim, to give zakah of your wealth. And it's pegged at 2.5% of your wealth. And there's some criteria for that. So it's not oppressive to a human being. There's criteria where you qualify to give zakah. And then a person who's the recipient of zakah has to be a Muslim person. So it's given by Muslims to Muslim people in need. And it is a means of empowerment, not a means of the old mentality of charity. Like, it's not kind of like it's not a hand me down or a hand down. It's an empowerment. Zakah is meant to empower that person. So it is 2.5% of my wealth, of a person's wealth, that they've kept for a period of time, etc. So there's some criteria to it, but for a discussion for another time. The main thing you want to be understanding in that is simple, is that 2.5% goes towards, now you're not doing that poor person a favor, because it is compulsory. It means we say in Islam, as Muslims, we say it's not your money anyway. God already determined who was going to be the recipient of that 2.5. It wasn't you. You're a conduit, because it's compulsory on you to give it. You don't. It's not a choice you have not to. I mean, you could choose not to, but you're violating one of the 5 principles of Islam. So if you call yourself a Muslim, that's one of the 5 principles that's obligatory on you to do that. So you give it. So it's never your money. Anyway, that 2.5 was not your money. So it's not like you're doing them a favor. No. Okay. Your creator asked you to part with it because it's a means of uplifting and empowering a fellow community member. So this is how it's meant to be, uplifting. So it's empowerment, the zakah aspect of charity in Islam. Now, there are other aspects of charity in Islam, because I'm guessing if a non-Muslim is watching this right now thinking, oh, okay, that seems a bit weird, that Muslims are instructed to give only to Muslims. No, not at all. Okay. Zakah is designed for Muslims. It's meant to empower the community. So it's empowerment. So connect zakah not to the word charity, but rather to empowerment. Then let me just cover another aspect of charity, right? Cool. Another aspect of charity we call sadaqah. Sadaqah, or just general giving, if you want to call it that. And that is, sadaqah is another Arabic term that can be given to anyone. Okay. Anyone. There's sadaqah, there's lillah. It's again for the sake of God. Lillah literally means in Arabic for the sake of Allah, okay. To God, for the sake of God. And you give that to anyone, Muslim, non-Muslim, doesn't matter what you want to do with that, right? So zakah is empowerment for the Muslim community. It wasn't yours to begin with, meaning it came through you, but it's destined for someone else, for 100% for certain. The sadaqah aspect of it is for blessings in your life. So the more you give sadaqah, the more you give lillah, those extra charitable acts are for bringing blessing into your life. Now, why do I say that? Because yes, you are benefiting a needy person, but we often teach our staff as well that, remember, we are not doing a favor to a person in need by helping them. They are doing a favor to us by allowing us to serve a fellow human being. And frankly, Mimi, I'll be open here. You did not choose the color of skin you were born into. I did not choose mine. You did not choose the country you were born. I did not choose mine. You did not choose the family. It was chosen for you by a higher being, our creator, right? It was chosen, which means you could have been born in Central Africa with the challenges a child has there. My son, my daughters could have been born in, I don't know, a crazy place where there's more challenges than where they're in my family, right? So they can't take credit for being born into my family, so to speak, because it was predestined for them, which means our Creator does not, whether you Christian, Jew, Hindu, Muslim, whatever, our Creator does not need me. I'm not that great. You're not that great. Because, I mean, He doesn't need us to take care of another human being. His creation. He created that person in Central Africa or in India or in some remote part of the world. He created me, or my child. He doesn't need me. He could have reversed the situation. I could have been there and they could have been there, right? He could have made them have more and me have less. It was His choice, really, where we were born and the challenges we experienced, which means for me, He gives me water in South Africa, but He doesn't give someone easy access to water in Mozambique, in a village. But He could have, but He uses me as a conduit. He uses me as a tool. So I truly believe that our Creator uses those that He gives more as tools to serve those that He gives less. So there's wisdom in it. Because I truly believe if God created everybody equal amounts of access to everything, we would not be humble. We would not be humbled in this world. We'd be arrogant. But the fact that He gave me and I can witness another human being who has less, two things. It gives me a sense of gratitude. But secondly, it humbles me because now I'm going to serve that human being. But when you have the right mindset to it, you're not doing a favor to that human being. Your Creator has done a favor to you to allow you to serve another aspect of His creation that He could have served Himself, but He chose you to serve that person, maybe to humble you. So maybe you're the one actually being helped when you think about it. Yeah. Wow. So Zakah, empowerment. Sadaqah, lillah, barakah, as we call it, brings blessings in your life. And for people who know this, who practice this mentality of giving charity regularly, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, you've probably felt abundance come into your life. And you probably attribute it to the fact that you're a giving person. So there's a cycle, and I truly believe anything that stagnates becomes toxic. We know that. Water is life-giving when it's flowing. When it's stagnant, it becomes toxic and can kill you. So the same thing that's life-giving can be life-taking, but on the one hand, it's flowing, it's fresh drinking water. On the other hand, it's stagnant and becomes toxic. Wealth is the same. Money is the same. If you allow it to flow through you, it will bring life-giving force through your life. If you hold it and hoard it, it becomes toxic and can hurt you, actually. So when you think about gratitude, when the world talks about gratitude journals, or I'm all for it, man, please do it. But you really want to experience gratitude in your life, become a person of abundance and a giving. Let things flow through you.
Amazing.
Let it flow through you. Now, COVID challenged that because everybody froze up. Everybody thought, I don't know what's going to happen. We're not going to my income, what's going to happen? Jobs, pay people, lost incomes, whatever. Mimi, I say this with the most unbelievable awe, actually. I was surprised. As much as I knew intellectually, but I still was very, very surprised. I thought during COVID that in the humanitarian space, people would give less because they'd be holding on to their money because they wouldn't know what's going to happen to their own family. How long is this thing going to last? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To be honest, in the humanitarian space, what I saw around the world, people were much more giving during COVID. It actually increased the giving because there's a verse in Quran that says, and I'll just give you the Arabic text now, let's explain it. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Now, if people understand Arabic, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ means those who have taqwa means God consciousness. For those who are God conscious, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. In Arabic, that means open up a way. So God will open a way for you. For those who are God conscious, God will make a way. وَيَرْزُقْهُ rizq, sustenance. We typically connect it to wealth, or sustenance could be health, could be family, but still sustenance. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. He will give you sustenance from places you never imagined. Now, wait a second. Okay, as a Muslim, you believe in the Quran and as the word of God. So he's telling you that if you have God consciousness, I will open a way and I'll give you from places you never imagined. Now, when you think about that, you can, as a human being, you can imagine, but from places you cannot imagine. So during COVID, people gave because it's a sign of faith, Mimi. You see, the opposite of faith is what? Fear. Faith, When we don't have faith, we fear, we hold on to stuff.
Yeah.
Faith is believing in the unseen, something we don't see, but we have faith. We may not even understand, but we have faith. So you have faith in something that if I open and I'm conscious of my creator, he'll open a way and he'll give me from places I never imagined. So there's a third aspect to charity. One, we said zakah, empowerment.
Yeah.
Second, sadaqah lillah. This is barakah, brings blessings into your life. It's a cycle. Okay. It's a river, flowing river. The third aspect is what we call sadaqah jariyah. This means you give in the name of a deceased person. So you give it, whether you're building a water well or you're feeding someone or you're helping someone through education or whatever. Doesn't matter. But you give it with the intention. You know, in Islam, we say, innamal a'malu binniyat. Every action is judged by its intention. So this is the principle of Islam. So if your intention in sadaqah jariyah is giving it with the intention that it should benefit the person in your family who's deceased. So let's say your grandfather, your grandmother, which means you build a water well. And a water well in Africa, you build it in their name, so to speak. Okay. Every time someone drinks water from that water well, as long as it exists, the reward, the benefit, the blessing goes to the person who's deceased. So this is ongoing charity, as we call it. So this charity in Islam is incredible because it's not just, oh, shame, that person has less than me, so I should be grateful and I should try to do my bit. But, you know, it's not my issue that they live there and I live here. And I'm a brain surgeon, so I've got my own intellect. Well, who gave you the intellect, mate? Did you? I mean, yes, you might have developed it, you studied, I get it, but you did not give it to yourself. And you didn't choose to be born in privilege. It was given to you. So you can't take credit for it. So we have to share with others.
Oh my gosh, I am so inspired. And as I said, I learn every year. I knew very much about Zakah. I understood that. And Sadaqah I'd also heard of, but this third form of giving in the name of people you have lost, I mean, what a beautiful concept. And, you know, Imran, I'm always struck by this. As I said earlier, we live in a world where so many people, for whatever reason, fear the Islamic faith, right? And of course, there's been world issues and terrorism and things in the past, right, that have affected general public sentiment. And I'm always so amazed, and this is why I want to have these conversations, because when you listen, and, you know, you speaking Arabic then, even just the sound of it, when you listen to these lessons, of course, they are for Muslims and they're from your book and your God. But they're for everyone, right? I mean, anyone can learn principles and take these lessons from Islam and from Ramadan and apply them, don't you think?
100%. And, you know, maybe here's the fact. If I had a candid conversation with you off air and I said to you, and you said to me, Imran, look, you know, I think you misguided, Imran. I think you actually come from the same God that I pray to, Imran. You are misguided. I may turn around and say, Mimi, okay, I think you're misguided. And I think you come from the same creator that created me. One thing we have to agree on, Mimi, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, it doesn't matter. We come from the same source. We may disagree how we view the source, but it's the same source. It's not multiple sources. You may agree, you may think, I'm not viewing the source correctly, and so I'm misguided. I may think you're not viewing the source correctly, so you're misguided. But we have to agree on one thing, it's the same source. We may view it differently, but it's the same place. So if it's the same source that we came from, then how dare we be arrogant with each other? It's like a father and a mother who's got kids, and one kid looks at the other one and says, man, I'm better than you. And the other one, the parents are like, man, come on, you idiots. I mean, come on, like, I mean, hey, man, like, hey, you're my kids. Like, so imagine God looking at all of us thinking, huh? Hey, what's going on with you guys? It doesn't make any sense that you would hate each other so much. And that's why I love that you call your show Empathy, because there's a very big difference between sympathy and empathy. Absolutely. When you sympathize with somebody, you're feeling sorry for them. When you empathize with someone, you are feeling with them. Yeah. And in Islam, we have a saying that we Muslims are one ummah. Ummah means community, one population, one group. And when we say that the ummah, the community, is like a body. your body, your physical body. If one part of your body hurts, the rest of the body feels the discomfort.
Yes.
If your eye hurts, your whole body feels it. If you break your leg, your whole body feels it. You feel the impact of that. So if one part of the community is suffering, the whole body feels it. So when there's someone in poverty in your community, you should feel it, because we are only as strong as the weakest person in the community. And so that's why the empathy, because when your leg hurts, you don't feel sorry for your leg. You don't look at your leg, I feel sorry for my leg. No, you feel with your leg. You are part of it. You are. So that's empathy. Empathy is you feeling it in your entire being, even though it might just be your leg. You stump your toe or something, man, your whole body feels it, because it's your toe and it's part of you. So that's empathy. You're partnering with someone. Sympathy is it's an external thing. I feel sorry for you that you're going through that. Empathy is let me feel it with you, understand it with you, and let me empower you.
Well, you can do my job for me now, Imran. You can run the Empathy for Everything series, because you've got. I mean, I couldn't agree more, and I love listening to you. Is there a word in the Quran for empathy, or maybe just in Arabic? Does that sentiment exist in the book itself?
I'm 100% certain it does, but I'm not a scholar, so I'm not going to attempt. I'm a lay guy. I'm 100% certain. And if you have on a future show a scholar, man, I'm sure they'll give you every background on which saying it was from the Prophet and which verse and number. Man, I'm not going to even attempt it. But yes, there's this concept of the ummah standing together.
Yeah, and that reminds me, actually, knowing that you come from South Africa, of Ubuntu, which is, for listeners out there, nothing to do with any religion, but it's an African or South African concept of togetherness.
100%, yes.
So it feels very similar. So for anyone, I can see lots of Arabic speakers are tuned in. So if anybody knows the word for empathy in Arabic, do pop it in the comments. You can teach Imran and I something today.
100%.
But talking of empathy, Imran, for the people tuning in that don't know much, and hopefully will come through this series with us and learn more and more, what would you like to, let's say, share with them so that they can have more empathy for Muslims over Ramadan? What would you like them to take away from this that perhaps they didn't know? What would you like them to understand about this month as a Muslim?
I think as a Muslim, first of all, in this month of Ramadan, take the time to find out what a Muslim person does in this month. Take the time to understand it. They're not trying to convert you. They're not trying to change your faith, but just take the time to understand it. Because there's this fear sometimes when we don't know something. We don't know it. There's a fear of the unknown. We don't know it, so we don't take the time to understand it. So we fear it. And we fear, I could never fast. Okay, I'm not asking you to fast. Just understand what it means to me. Understand what it feels like. Because we say often when you're fasting, you're abstaining from food and drink so you can kind of feel what it feels like to be someone who doesn't have it. Yes, but that's on a very surface level. That's just the physical aspect of it, of course. Fasting does not only include that. Fasting is fasting with your tongue, meaning how you speak. Fasting with your mind, what you think about during the day. Fasting with your heart, how you feel towards others. If you're feeling animosity and resentment and hatred towards others, you're not fasting. Fasting with the heart. If you're thinking bad about others and you're speaking bad about others, you're backbiting, you're not fasting. So a true Muslim, if you're a non-Muslim, I'd like you to know that a Muslim during this month, if they're really following this faith, then they're really, really trying in all their senses, in their entire being, to fast, not just eat and drink. So which means they're at such a soft, we say Ramadan softens the heart. So because that's what it does. So I want you to know that. I would like you to know that their hearts are soft as a nation. Now I want to speak to the Muslims and the non-Muslims combined. Listen, folks, if you see another person that looks different to you, whether it's race, religion, ethnicity, nationality, you name it, and you choose to hate that person or not to help a person in need based on color, ethnicity, religious background, nationality, whatever you want to call it, then there's something fundamentally wrong with your humanity, because we come from the same source.
I mean, I could stay here all day, honestly, but I feel like that message needs to be the last message, really, Imran. I mean, I am so touched by that. And I think that is a message for our world, of course, during Ramadan and the holy month, but actually every day. and always. You know, one of the things
Absolutely.
I say to all my audiences is we are more alike than we are different.
Sure.
And I don't come at that from a faith point of view, but simply a humanity point of view. You know, we all want to be loved and safe and grow, and no one wants to be hungry or poor or disadvantaged. So how do we reconnect all of our people? And I hope that this series is one of them. So Imran, it has been, I mean, not just a pleasure, but I have learned a huge, huge amount, and I hope to learn much more. For anyone here, thank you for the comments. We've put most of them on screen. If we didn't get to your comment, we will come back to you. And we will tag Imran, of course, in all of these posts, so you can find him and all of his amazing charity work. And Imran, hopefully you and I can on a journey together now to spread that community, that empathy, and that connection further into the future. But thank you for doing the work that you do, and for joining me on episode 1 of Empathy for Ramadan this year.
It's an absolute pleasure, Mimi, and thank you for having me on the show, and thank you to the audience as well. And I pray, God willing, that we'll connect further and we'll do more together, and this will be fantastic, because ultimately we need to benefit humanity.
Oh, I lost you there, and somehow Siri is busy to me instead. So if anyone in the Siri instead of Imran, I lost you, and Siri stepped in and started asking me for help. So clearly,
that's great. That's okay. Well, anyway, just to wrap up, thank you, Mimi. If you can hear me now, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm grateful. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners. Thank you for being on this. And of course, together we need to teach each other. We need to benefit each other, teach each other, learn from each other, humble ourselves, and work together, because we have one world, man. We are one humanity at the end of the day. Let's make it work.
Thank you so much for being here. And for everyone that tuned in, please join us for the next 4 episodes coming in the next 6 days as we meet more Muslims from around the world. We've got people everywhere, from Africa to Sri Lanka, Dubai, Doha, the UAE, everywhere coming to join us. So thank you for being here and for helping me and Imran spread empathy everywhere. So lovely to see you. Ramadan Kareem, Salamat Hari Raya, and have a beautiful day.